Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to From the Nosebleeds. I'm Joey Gunnar here today with James Merrillat. James, how you feeling today?
Feeling great, Joey. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Yeah, no, I haven't really got to talk to you very much after that huge win on Sunday. You're a lifelong Broncos fan. How does it feel seeing the Broncos get that number 1 seed in the divisional or the wild card bye? It must feel great for you.
Oh, it's surreal. I mean, they're ahead of schedule. Nobody expected them to be at this point, right? They're coming off the 7 seed last year. Then it was, okay, let's see if they can compete for the AFC West, which obviously they did. But nobody, not even, maybe Cecil. I'll give it to Cecil. Nobody other than Cecil thought this team could compete for the number 1 seed in the conference. But here they are, and it gives them the HOV lane to Santa Clara to Super Bowl 60. Doesn't mean they're going to get there. It's not 100% guaranteed, but boy, they have the easiest route. So as a fan, a lifelong fan, it's hard not to be excited about the fact that they have put themselves in a prime position to make another trip to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say that this team is still, maybe this is the first year out of the rebuild. I mean, there's been a long rebuild going on with this team, and you get maybe your first year out of it again. You got your second-year quarterback. You got a good receiver core around him. You have your offensive line set up. All these different pieces were all set into place for success, and clearly that's coming to fruition. They are succeeding. They got that 1 seed. Now, how do we find success? How do the Broncos find success going throughout the playoffs? They got the divisional round. Hopefully they get the AFC championship game, and then after that, a Super Bowl. 3 games. What do they need to do to find success? And I think that the first thing that needs to happen is the right matchup. I talked a little bit with Jake yesterday about what would be your dream matchup in the divisional round. And I want to hear that from you before we dive a little bit deeper into what they can do to succeed in the playoffs. What would be your dream matchup in the divisional round, and what team do you want to see the least?
Well, give me Pittsburgh. Now, first of all, I'm going to preface it with, I learned back in 1996 when I was rooting for the Jags to get in there, and the Broncos were 13-3, and they'd clinched home field all the way back on December 1st, and then the Jags get in at 9-7, win their wild card game, and then come beat the Broncos in the divisional round. I learned not to root for certain matchups; just let the chips fall. But if you're making me handicap it, I think clearly the Steelers are the weakest team in the playoffs in terms of AFC teams. So that would be my preference. I want no part of the Bills coming in here. I think the Texans would be a tough matchup. I would say the Chargers are the second best matchup for the Broncos because they're so banged up. So give me the 4 seed in Pittsburgh, give me the 7 seed in LA, and I would like to avoid Buffalo and Houston. But I'm not rooting for anybody, Joey. Whoever they got, look, if you're going to go to the Super Bowl, you got to beat some good teams. So let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah, no, I like it. So that's like the matchup. Obviously, I think that most people here in Denver, of course, like you, don't want to root for a matchup, don't want to root for any team to win, but Steelers seem like the best option for the Broncos. I mean, a geriatric Aaron Rodgers isn't going to be able to do much against this defense that the Broncos have here. But that brings up the next thing, the defense. They had last week, and last week was incredible. I mean, they won that game purely off of their defense. The output there was incredible. And of course, they're going up against Trey Lance and company. It's not really that hard of a matchup, but that's the kind of energy you hope to build going into a bye week and then going into the divisional round. They have so much steam right now. They are going to be the catalyst for why the Broncos may win a Super Bowl this season. What do they need to do or improve on to find success in the playoffs? Is there something they need to change? Any play making, adjustments that they need to do? Do they need to start doing one thing more? I just want to hear from you. What are you seeing more from the defense that they need to really improve on, or just keep doing the same going into the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I'm not quite bought in on this defense. I mean, the last 3 games, the Broncos have not played very well, right? They got blown out by the Jags. That was the last time they played a real team. Christmas night, they play a 3rd-string quarterback that didn't look great. And then in the finale, they play a bunch of backups and didn't look great. But defensively, the 2 things they needed to do, they at least started to do against the Chargers, even though it was against backups, right? They needed to figure out, hey, where is Nick Bonito? Where's Jonathan Cooper? Where's Zach Allen? Why are they not able to get pressure from their 3 elite pass rushers? Those guys were in the backfield harassing Trey Lance all game long. So that's number 1. If they've rediscovered what they were before Thanksgiving, that helps this defense a ton. The other part of it, and it's a little fluky, but they got to force some turnovers, right? As good as this defense is, they've only forced 14 turnovers in 17 games. 2 of them came in the last game against the Chargers, both of which put points on the board. It was the pick 6 by Jaquan, and then the other one gave the fumble, gave the Broncos great field position. They had a negative 2-yard scoring drive. So the offense didn't put those 3 points on the board. The defense did. So forcing turnovers, again, that can be a little fluky. Where's the ball bounce? It's an oblong shaped ball. So that's about, just getting a little bit of a luck, but it's putting pressure on with 4. If they have to blitz, they're going to be in trouble. They got to make sure Nick Bonito, Jonathan Cooper, and Zach Allen are living up to those contracts and being elite pass rushers. We saw a little bit of against the Chargers. That needs to continue into the playoffs.
Yeah, and I think one thing you didn't touch on there, but the red zone defense. The red zone, the defense for the Broncos, I think, has been better than maybe you're giving them credit for all season. Sure, they had a bad game against the Jags. They've had a couple of bad performances this season, but going into the playoffs after those last 2 games against the Chiefs and the Chargers, I don't care who their quarterback is, they played well. They played real well. They were forcing turnovers, at least in that last game, and they were generating pressure. But in the red zone, that needs to be amplified, and they are the best team at doing that this season. They are the best red zone defense in the league, number 1 overall when it comes to touchdowns allowed as soon as a team enters the red zone. And then on the other side of that, the offense, they're 13th in the league. So in the red zone, they're going to need to start generating stops the way that they do already and generating more touchdowns on the offensive side. The red zone, I think, is one thing that kind of floats over people's heads going to the playoffs. That's where games are won and lost. Is there something they need to do there, especially on the offense side? We talked about the defense, but the offensive efficiency in the red zone needs to be a little bit better. Am I right?
Oh, it has to be a lot better. It has to be a lot better. They've kicked too many field goals in the last 3 weeks that are 20-something yards, right? Look, there's nothing wrong with putting 3 points on the board if it's a 48-yard field goal. That means the drive stalled at the 30. But you get inside the 20, you get inside the 10, and you're settling for field goals, which they did 3 times against the Chargers. They did against the Chiefs. The touchdown at the end that ultimately was the game-winning score, they needed a 4th down, draw them offsides penalty. Otherwise, that was going to be another short field goal to go ahead 16-13. They have to figure out a way to punch it in when they get down there. And look, Steve Spagnuolo put together the game plan that the Chargers used and everybody's going to use defensively against the Broncos. It's put pressure on them with 4, put 7 guys in zone coverage, and make the Broncos dink and dunk their way down the field and put together 8, 10, 12 play drives, which they've shown they can do. Against the Raiders, they had a bunch of long drives, right? But they can't have an 8-minute drive that ends in 3 points. And that's been the situation the last couple of weeks. That's problematic. The other part of it is they're basically saying, look, at some point over a 10, 12 play drive, you're going to make a mistake. Somebody's going to miss a block. You're going to have a false start. You're going to have a holding penalty, and that's going to be a drive killer. So in order to get teams out of that, they have to be able to protect up front, and they couldn't do it the other day, right? They had to keep max protection in a lot. One play, Cortland Sutton stayed in and tried to help protect Bo Nix. They have to be able to block better when teams are only rushing 4, and you have to run the football. If teams are playing 7 guys in zone and you got to keep 7 guys in to block, you got 3 receivers against 7 defensive backs or defensive backs and linebackers in coverage. The math isn't hard. It's just not going to work. You have to be able to run the ball. And other than Bo Nix against the Chargers, they weren't very effective. Jaleel looked okay, but they don't seem very adamant about sticking with them. So they need to find a running game. But, hey, it's the playoffs. They've had 17 weeks to figure that out, and they haven't done it. That's a concern for me.
I think that the red zone offense, I don't know if it's being given enough credit. I mean, they're scoring touchdowns on 57.9% of their red zone drives. Anytime they get in the red zone, they score a touchdown 57.9% of the drive. That's over half the time. I feel like that's solid enough. Am I maybe just being too lax, or is that not?
I think it's not trending in that direction, though. What was that percentage 4 weeks ago? It was higher than 57%. They kicked 3 field goals the other day that were 20-something yards. That means you're inside the 10-yard line and you're having to settle for a field goal. So they had the same issue against the Chiefs. They had the same issue against the Jags. So settling for too many short field goals. Again, I got nothing wrong with Will Lutz drilling a 51-yarder when the drive stalls at the 35. It's like, all right, that's sort of bonus points. But you get inside the 20, you got to punch it in. And we've seen too many field goals. I mean, look, against the Chargers, they had 4 field goals. That's what the offense mustered, 3 of which were 20-something yarders. That's just not good. You ain't beating Josh Allen kicking 28-yard field goals. It's just not happening.
Do you think that'll change though? I mean, like there has to be something that's said about the care being put to different games. I mean, when they're going up against the backups in Los Angeles, they're probably going to care less about, really punching it in the red zone than they will when they welcome Josh Allen to town.
I mean, I think that's what everybody tried to tell me after the game is, they didn't want to show anything. I think it's a convenient excuse, right? I mean, Sean Payton said all week, this is a playoff game. Okay, well,
I agree with you there. Yeah.
Let's take his word for it. It's a playoff game. And they put themselves in a position where 1 or 2 bad bounces, that thing gets really greasy really fast. Now, Trey Lance was awful. He couldn't make any plays other than running around. So the game really was never in doubt. But you get something fluky in that game. You get a kick return or a punt return or a block punt or something like that. And all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, we're 1 score away from, ended up being the 5 seed. I don't buy that they went in and didn't take that game serious. Their coach said all week it's a playoff game. And I think the fact that, they didn't show anything is laughable. There's 17 weeks of film on these guys. What secret are they keeping that 2 weeks from now they're going to bust out on the Chargers if the Chargers come back here and shock them? The other part of it is, even if you do have a surprise for the Chargers, they got like 14 coaches up in the booth. They're going to figure it out after the first drive. So you risked losing the 1 seed and went very vanilla so you can shock the Chargers on that first drive. I don't buy it. I think it's a convenient excuse to explain away an offense that is sputtering. And the reality is, since Bo Nix took that awkward hit on a scramble against the Jags for 2.5 games, he has not been very good. He just hasn't been. He's been extremely inaccurate. And other than running around against the Chargers, he wasn't very good in that game. He wasn't very good Christmas night, and he was not very good in the second half against the Jags. I just think it's trending in a bad direction.
So you don't, and I got more things I want to hit on for the success, but just before that, what's your confidence level feeling at going into the playoffs here?
If it's Pittsburgh, I feel pretty good about it. If it's any of the other 3 teams, I think they're one and done.
Even the Chargers.
I think the Chargers, I think that's a coin flip, and I think Houston beats them.
Along with Buffalo.
And Buffalo. Yeah, Buffalo would beat them. Houston would beat them. I think they beat the Steelers. I think the Chargers are a coin flip.
And it's very possible that Buffalo ends up coming to town. I mean, the Chargers possible too. I'm not too high on the Patriots. I think that if anybody can beat the Patriots, is a team like the Chargers. But we also know how the Chargers are. They are not successful when it actually matters. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, the confidence level is shaky. I mean, we've seen how shaky this offense has been, how inconsistent it's been. But hopefully, again, a bye week going into it, there can be something to come out of it. But last point I want to touch on for how the Broncos can find success, the run game. And you mentioned it a little bit earlier with Jaleel McLaughlin and RJ Harvey. Neither of them are really the RB1. Of course, that's still J.K. Dobbins, who could be back around the AFC Championship. We don't really know when he could be back. What is going to need to happen in the backfield? Is it going to have to be one guy? Are they going to need to find success with both of them? Is it Tyler Beatty that's going to have to come in? There needs to be something consistent on this team, and it hasn't been there since we've lost J.K. Dobbins. Since he's been on IR, it just hasn't been as consistent as before. Something's going to need to happen there.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily put it all on the backs. I think the Broncos need to be better up front. I mentioned earlier that their pass protection wasn't very good. You got to be able to give Bo Nix time when they're only rushing 4, and he was running around way too much against the Chargers. From the opening offensive play, there were guys coming unblocked at the quarterback. It's just massive breakdowns up front. And I think there's too many times where RJ Harvey gets the handoff and he's getting hit. So, if we went through and watched the all 22, is there sometimes when, hey, there's a hole, you got to hit it? Sure. But there are other times where he's just got absolutely no shot. I think the Broncos have to be better up front. I think they got to win in the trenches. And they don't have great skill position players. I heard the morning show talking about it today. The Rams have the best offensive football, right? The number 1 in yards, number 1 in points. How many skill position players for the Broncos, quarterback, running back, tight end, and receiver, would start for the Rams? The answer is 0. So they have a deficiency when it comes to talent. It's been the case for years. I used to say when in Russ's final year, it's hard to soar like an eagle when you're flying with turkeys, and nobody wanted to hear it. Now they want to make that excuse for Sean and for Bo, but it's just a reality. They don't have a lot of great skill position guys. but they have invested a lot of money up front. Garrett Bowles is well paid. Ben Powers and Mike McGlinchey were high paid free agents. They put a ton of money into Quinn Miners. Other than at center and Luke Wattenberg, who's now out, the 4 other guys are as high paid as at their position as you can be. They need to be better up front. They need to dominate up front, and they just don't. And McGlinchey and Powers in particular, their expertise is supposed to be in run blocking. I just don't see it on a week in, week out basis.
So you're putting more of it on the line instead of the running backs.
I am. I don't think it would matter who was back there.
Really?
No.
But J.K. Dobbins is finding success. Why isn't it coming? And obviously, R.J. Harvey's a rookie.
Dobbins was Eric Dickerson in 1984, rushing for 2,100 yards. I mean, he was fine. He was fine, but compared,
I don't know if we're giving him. I think he was the most consistent piece on this team. I mean, he was the one that you could look to get you 4 or 5 yards of play. That's seriously like how efficient he was.
The classiest Kardashian being the most consistent piece on this team. Somebody's got to be, and he was fine. I mean, J.K. Dobbins was fine, but again, people act like it's Adrian Peterson in his prime that would come back. I mean, he just simply wasn't. He was better than anybody they've got now, and on those plays now where it is on the back, where it's on, Harvey doesn't hit the hole or McLaughlin or Bidet. Okay, there are some of those where it's on the back, and Dobbins would eliminate a lot of those, if not all of those. But they still got to block up front. Listen, I'm not in the camp of J.K. Dobbins is going to come in and solve all for this offense. We've been talking about this offense all season long. J.K. Dobbins was out there when this team went to London and struggled against the Jets. I mean, they had a ton of ugly wins early in the year when J.K. Dobbins was out there. People act like this team was averaging 35 points a game when Dobbins played. That just wasn't the case. It's been a bad offense all year long. They were terrible in the opener against the Titans when they scored 20 points. I mean, it's been a bad offense pretty much from the get-go, and Dobbins would make it a little bit better, but he ain't going to make them the Rams. I'll put it that way.
In 10 games, J.K. Dobbins had 153 carries. That's only 7 more carries, by the way, than R.J. Harvey. For 772 yards, that's an average of 5 yards per carry. That's pretty good numbers. Now, R.J. Harvey's a great punching him back. He can catch out of the backfield. He's a touchdown guy. R.J. Harvey gets touchdowns. When he gets the ball on the goal line, almost 90% of the time, and that's a fake stat, that's not a real stat, 90% or so of the time, he's getting a touchdown. He's consistent in the goal line areas, but J.K. Dobbins, 5 yards a carry, that's undeniable.
But they also gave him the ball 15 times a game, and he averaged 70-some yards a game. 70 yards. Again, he's not Adrian Peterson in his prime. He's not Terrell Davis. I mean, it's like, yeah, he would be better, and they need to run the ball more consistent. There's a reason Sean Payton writes run the ball on the top of his play sheet because he knows it. Everybody else knows it. But as a play caller, it's hard to stick with the run when you're in 2nd and 9, 2nd and 12, 2nd and 11. It consistently, it just puts you behind the sticks. So if they're running the ball and they're in 2nd and 4, 2nd and 5, I guarantee you Sean will stick with it. But listen, J.K. Dobbins ain't playing in the divisional round, so they better figure out how to get it done without the guy that averages 70 yards a game. Again, he's good, he's fine, he's better than what they have, and they were better offense when they had him, but they weren't a juggernaut with him. And I just think expecting him to come back and all of a sudden this team's going to win a shootout with the Bills because J.K. Dobbins is in the backfield, I just think isn't reality. I don't think that's going to happen.
J.K. Dobbins versus James Cook. Who's better? I love it. James, thank you so much for joining. We'll see you guys all tomorrow. Until then, y'all have a great rest of your day. Bye, y'all.